Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the J Lounge. Of course, you guys know I am your hostess with the mostest, Miss J, aka Miss Simone Jackson, here to bring you guys another wonderful episode of the J Lounge. Of course, all y'all know out there, the J Lounge is a celebrity-based podcast show where we talk with entertainers, directors, singers, actors, you name it. They all come down here and they all chill and have a good time talking with us. I'm super excited for my next guest. She is a screenwriter, producer, and she's making a space for herself and for Black women in the horror gene, and I'm so happy because we need more of that. She's here to talk about her incredible work and who she is as a screenwriter. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Sade Sellers. Hi, Sade.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, I am so glad you are on here. I appreciate you for giving your time today.
Oh, of course. I'm grateful we were able to make this work and that you reached out to me. It's really humbling when people reach out and they request to have me on their show because I don't feel very special. So.
Well, you should feel special. Like I said, been checking out your work, so of course I had to get you on the show. Sade, I'm gonna go ahead and fire the first question at you. I want to know, where did this passion for filmmaking and screenwriting begin for you?
Yeah, it actually started with Jurassic Park.
Yes.
It's a little, I guess, perfect timing because the new movie's coming out in June.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom took me to see Jurassic Park Lost World in the theaters, and I remember it so clearly. I remember where we were sitting. I remember how I felt during the movie. I remember how I felt after the movie. And I just knew after seeing that movie in the theaters that I didn't know what that job was. I had no idea what actors were, what directors were. I didn't know any of that. I was like 8 years old, but I knew that I wanted to do whatever they were doing. So then I started getting into local plays in children's theaters in my community, and then I went into high school doing theater the entire time, and it just stemmed from there. It wasn't until I got to college and I was at Michigan State that I realized I wasn't happy because Michigan State doesn't have a film program. They had plenty of what do you call them, like film classes where you could study the art of filmmaking, but not a program. And that's when I realized, okay, I've been literally thinking about this since I was 8 years old. It's probably time I go and actually do it.
Yeah. Yes, and I got to say, Jurassic Park, to me, that is that's a perfect choice. I love Jurassic Park. I remember how I felt when I saw it. I know exactly what you mean, that magical moment when you see something like that. My magical moment was seeing, Harry Potter. I'm a huge nerd.
Yeah.
So when I saw that magical world brought on screen, which I didn't think it could be brought onto screen like it was. I was like, okay, I am so obsessed with filmmakers, screenwriters. I want to know the whole process, how this start and began, because you brought a whole world that I did not think would be able to be brought on screen, and you guys brought it out. Like, that is amazing.
Yeah. And even now, that I work in the industry, I actually don't get to go to the movies as much as I used to, right? Because you work in them. But I just went to see like Doctor Strange yesterday. Even now, when I'm sitting in a theater and I'm watching a movie, I still get that feeling of when I was 8 years old. And it reminds me of like why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because sometimes it can be so stressful and so hard and so discouraging. So I'll go take myself out to a movie and I'll watch something and I go, oh, that's right. This is the feeling you're trying to recreate and capture in your 30s.
Exactly. I know what you mean. Those goosebumps. When those goosebumps start forming, you're watching an incredible film that's really getting to you. I completely understand.
Yeah.
Going on to the number 2 question, Sade, what type of stories, as a filmmaker, what type of stories do you like to bring to the forefront?
Oh yeah, that's such a good question. For me, and this is all for me, I know everyone has a different path. I love stories of universality where it doesn't matter what the person looks like on the screen, they're going through a human experience that we can all relate to. And that's, I think, why I appealed so much to the Jurassic Park series, because it was really just about, this dinosaurs, right? Like they're all running away. I can't relate to that, but I can definitely relate to the feeling of being scared or lost or this adventure feeling. I gravitate towards stories that anyone can watch, whatever gender spectrum they're on, whatever they identify as, they watch it, they go, I know that feeling. And honestly, that has been more in the horror thriller element for me because that genre deals a lot with death and grief. And I feel like those are universalities that we can never gonna escape, but we can all relate to at some point in our life. So those are the stories I like to tell.
And that's true though. That is true. And I think I have to agree with you on that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love getting lost in a good old fantasy action film, but the films with genuine, human stories, connections, and emotions, there's just something about it that just hits home. So I completely understand. And movies like, just to give an example, like Precious. That was one of the hardest movies I've ever had to watch. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is getting to my soul right now. Like, I've only watched Precious once and I can only watch it once. That's because how powerful, the emotions, and I know some people can relate to what Precious went through. And it's just like, oh my goodness.
Not even the intensity of what Precious went through, because like I can't relate to that, but yeah, some people can, and that's awful. There's a moment in Precious that really got me that had nothing to do with her abuse. She looks at herself in the mirror and she sees a white girl, and I was like, holy crap. I was just like, the fact that she was like longing to look different than how she looked, because I grew up in the 90s. Like everyone now is so pro-black and aesthetic wise, like it's such an accepting thing to want to look black and be black. That wasn't the case in the 90s for anyone who grew up in the 90s.
I'm raising my hand. I am raising my hand.
We went through the trenches in the 90s. So that really hit me, especially me. I grew up in a small town in Michigan. It's not a small town, it's a city. It's Lansing, but it's still smaller than LA. And just growing up, where most of my friends are white, you don't feel like your features, and my lips are huge. If you ever see a picture of me, my lips are huge. They've been this way since I was a baby. They are big. They were not appreciated growing up at all. But now you see women literally getting lip injections, and it's crazy, and it's like accepted.
It's true. It is so true. It wasn't. For one, I can relate to everything you just said right now. I live in Washington, a very small town in Washington, and there's not a lot. There's still not a lot of, even to this day, even 2022, there's still not a lot of Black people around here. Mm-hmm. When I was in school, I would be, the only Black girl or something. And that experience was horrendous.
Yeah, awful.
It was awful. They didn't get my hair. My hair wasn't that perfect. Becky with a straight hair look, and I it's just yes, I know you feel it. I know you feel it. I feel the connection between the computer. I really do. I feel it. And it was just terrible, because it's like I just thought, am I never going to see someone who looks like me? Or is it just, I mean I had that same feeling as Precious. I used to want to look different as well, because I was like, because I'm here in a small town and I'm different looking from everybody else, and it's a standout, because again, when you're the only Black girl in your class, that's a standout, and it's very intimidating, especially because they're not going to, I had that thought, are they going to understand me? Are they going to, so I completely get the feeling, honestly, 100%.
And that's why movies like Precious, like even in the larger sense, whatever, like I said, what she was going through is so horrific, but that tiny scene, it wasn't even a big scene. It was like 10 seconds. That's, I think a lot of women like you and I can relate, especially Black women, could go, oh, well, maybe if I looked like this, my life would be easier.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I don't know how many times I used to thought that when I was a kid. I was like, maybe I was a little bit light-skinned. It would be different for me.
My nose was smaller, if my lips were smaller. And then all of a sudden everyone's getting big lips and everyone wants nose. And Beyonce sings about Negro nose. You're like, thank God. Like someone's saying it. Like awesome.
For real. Honestly. For real. Oh my God. It's so nice to talk to somebody who relates to that. Oh my goodness. That's so beautiful. Honestly.
Congratulations to us for living through the 90s. Those girls, everyone's not to get off track, but all the TikTok girlies are going back to the fashion of the 90s, but they don't have the appreciation of how freaking hard it was to live through the 90s as a Black woman.
Please, Sade, say it louder for the people in the back, just in case they didn't hear.
You guys are lucky that all you get to take from the 90s is the fashion. You don't get the trauma. You don't get the horrible things that came with it. So
Ooh,
congratulations.
we deserve a peace medal, to be honest.
We do. We need, a purple medal. We survived a battle.
Yes, honestly.
So funny.
Love it. All right, going on to the number 3 question, Sade, I would like to know, name 3 people who influenced your career and why.
Yeah. Well, the first would be my mom. My mommy, she's probably the smartest businesswoman I've ever met in my life. She is a recruiter. She's owned her own recruiting agency for the manufacturing industry for 3 years, and yet has nothing to do with film. She knows nothing about film and the community and nothing about filmmaking, but she knows about business. She knows about making deals. She's the one that taught me pick up the phone and call people, not email and text. Like, I know I'm a millennial, so we get very much like we're texters, we're emailers. We're like the last generation that really had like phones in the house. I remember having our little house phone. But she was the one that's like, no good deal is made over email or text. You pick up the phone, you hash it out, talk to people. She's also a Gen Xer in the sense that she's like, oh, if you want a job, you print out a resume and you go door to door. Yeah, no one does that anymore. Like, but to her credit, her bigger point was, if you want something, you got to be seen doing it. You can't be hiding. So she's my number one inspiration when it comes to the business of this industry. When it comes to not taking no, just being a Black woman herself and the things that she had to go through. Like, I talk about how hard it was to live through the 90s. It was probably much harder for her in the 70s and the 80s, being a Black woman in business, and she's an immigrant. So triple harder. So that's my number one always. Number 2 is Steven Spielberg. Obviously, Jurassic Park is a huge influence on me, but just his style of filmmaking. If you know Steven Spielberg is the director of a film when you watch the film without even looking at the credits, because of the way he moves the camera. I've never seen anyone move a camera better than him, with more intention. Every shot, every scene has multiple uses to it. Nothing is wasted. It's not like he's not just going to get a standard like still frame. He's going to find pans, moves, reversals, anything he can do. He is the most advantageous director that I've seen, and I love him for that. And his movies are great. They're really really great. I think the third one, I want to say, I don't remember her name right now, and that bothers me. But there was a woman that I used to work with when I was at Leah Daniels Butler's production company. And I didn't used to work with her. We used to go to pitch to her. I can't remember her. I think it's Jennifer. And she's going to be really upset when I realize I can't remember her name. Jennifer, but she worked at a studio, and everything about her cadence, her language, how she controlled the room, but her kindness, it was just such a great example of how you should be in a room and a professional setting, and listen to creators and give them notes without, bogging down their idea. Yeah, their idea. She was just very generous with her giving of what she does in her position. So I look up to her very, very highly. But it was, definitely, I would say Steven and my mom are my top 2. I'm sure there's a third somewhere in there, but Jennifer is the only one I can really. And I mean, I've been lucky to work around a lot of women. Leah Daniels Butler is an amazing giver as well, just with knowledge. If you have questions, because she's been in the industry for so long that she knows everything. So that was, and her husband Henry Butler is also a big educator. And what I love about her husband is he is a forgiving person. You can make a mistake and he's like, all right, you made the mistake. Let's move on. Let's learn from it. That's just so generous. When you're working this industry, you don't get a lot of that. You kind of mess up and you don't get to fail upwards, especially when you're a woman. But Henry is all about giving people 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, second, chances. So there's been a lot of people that I would say number 3 is everyone I've ever worked with in my life, because I've learned something from anyone I've worked with.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And I think that's great that, as you said, Henry, he's someone who's generous and forgives mistakes, because I believe that there needs to be more space for women filmmakers and directors to make a bad film and then that not be their last chance. I don't know how many, come on, like there's only been one movie of M. Night Shyamalan's that I like. Everything else has been terrible.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's only one thing. I only like The Sixth Sense. That's the only one that I like. Because
You didn't like Signs?
I have mixed feelings with Signs.
Oh, wow.
Really
Signs.
I mean, I appreciate the story of Signs because that was
Okay.
new. That was refreshing. I just feel like during, I want to say maybe the middle act, I feel like they lost the steam. We lost some steam a little bit. And yeah. Like I said, I have mixed feelings.
Act twos are hard.
Act twos are hard. No, they are hard. But my point is, he still makes films, even though he makes some films that are not great.
That's true. I mean, Old wasn't great. Old wasn't great, but I'm still gonna go watch whatever M. Night does.
And I feel like for women, they need to have that same chance. They need to be able to make a bad film and still be able to get chances to make more films.
Yeah, there's not a lot of grace with women when we
and that's so much pressure. It's already hard enough being a female director and filmmaker trying to get your voice heard. Now, when you do get your voice heard, it's, well, you have to be perfect. If you make a mistake, then that's going to be your last chance.
Yeah. And it's so ironic because in film and TV, nothing is carried by one person. No bad movie is carried by one director, and no good movie is carried by one director. It has always been a community of filmmakers doing their job, their craft, whether it's prop making, costume design, makeup, directing, producing. It's always been a collaboration, but like you said, when a movie goes bad, they blame the director. When a movie goes good, they like congratulate the actors and then
they congratulate the actors and stuff like that. So there just needs to be more room and more grace in Hollywood to make films that are not great, and just not be the last chance to prove or make another film.
Great is relative. It's subjective. Like, you didn't enjoy Signs. I thought Signs was mind-blowing. You know, some people really didn't enjoy his movie with the plants attacking people. I like that movie. I like it a lot. So it's subjective. Who's to say what's good or bad? Because it didn't make money. It makes it bad in our industry. But just because it doesn't make money doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It just means it didn't make money.
Exactly. For another good example, because it was, one of those, decisive movies when it came out, the female Ghostbusters. It was great to some, and to others, it just wasn't. And it's okay to have both opinions, but I don't like it when they say, when people say, well, it's a bad film. What is a bad film to you? Because what's a bad film to you can be a work of art to another person.
Exactly.
So we should have those two, those two can coincide. Good and bad can coincide. It happens every day.
Exactly.
So that's just how I feel on that one.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, going on to the number 4 question, Sade. You are the creator of Afro Horror. Can you tell the J Lounge audience what that is and what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so Afro Horror is a now monthly podcast, which you just reminded me I have to edit our May episode. I haven't done it yet. Okay, I got to do that. Monthly podcast. It's on all podcast streaming forums. You can find them, and it's an interview series, but also a review series. But essentially, what it is, it's just spotlighting Black artists and creators in the horror genre. And because it started 4 years ago, because I was just getting into podcasting, like that's when, podcasting was starting to like really boom and people were listening. And I was like, I want to listen to some horror podcasts because I love horror. And I followed a few creators and they were really great. And then I followed a few more. And then they had an episode on Halloween Resurrection, which is with Busta Rhymes. And Miss Tyra Banks. Yeah. And it is, it is known not to be great, right? We just had this conversation on what is a good, what is a bad movie, whatever. It's known not to be well liked in the horror community, and especially for Halloween fans, period. Right. But it has its moments, but listening to one podcast that was just tearing it apart, like ripping it piece to piece, and then they were kind of glossing over. They didn't outright say it, but they were basically blaming like all the Black people in the film. And I was like, hold on. And my point to that is some of these people on these podcasts, they weren't there. You know, we just talked about living through the 90s. They weren't there to experience what that was like. They're just watching it for the first time. So they have a little different take. But when you lived through the 90s and you were a horror fan, especially a Black horror fan, we weren't there. Like we weren't there in the 70s, we weren't there in the 80s, we were sprinkled about. But the 90s, what happened was there was a big boom in hip hop. Hip hop became mainstream, and all the white kids loved hip hop, and all the studios saw money in these hip hop stars. So therefore, that's where you got Rod Digga and 13 Ghosts. Then you got Usher and The Faculty. Then you got, you know, Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks. So my point to this was they're blaming these movies on, you know, the presence of Black people, not understanding that we were wanted. Hip hop was desired. They wanted us in the films to make them cooler, to get an audience, you know? So that's where Afro horror started, was to say, we need to appreciate Black culture in these horror films, because without us, you probably wouldn't have gotten the money to do a Halloween Resurrection, and you wouldn't have got the box office that came with it. That movie did very well for the time, you know. Right. So people forget that because they didn't live through it. I lived through it. I saw it. So that's where the show came from.
And it is now considered a cult classic. So, you know,
for people to make fun of, and that's fine. It's
for people to make fun of, right? Yeah, that's true. But I completely get what you're saying. If the demand is there, then you can't blame you know, the people of color in it, and then the demand was there for them to be in this film.
Exactly.
And it's like, without them being in this film, there wouldn't be a film.
Exactly. There wouldn't be a film. There may have been a film, but it wouldn't have had drawn Black, because the thing was Black audiences. People, like, the metrics were there that Black audiences, and this is still there. They still like to ignore it, but we're still there. Or I think below, like, Latino Americans are the number one moviegoers. We go to movies, we see things, we consume, we buy things, and hip hop was a way. And you saw that with Tommy Hilfiger, right? He was getting hip hop artists in his line. Why? Because Black consumerism is a big dollar. So it made me mad to hear a bunch of white boys not fully understand the context of how important having, and Busta Rhymes is a legend. Tyra Banks is a legend. So give them their credit. And Sean Patrick Thomas is also in this movie. I don't want to leave him out. And he's been doing work as just a Black actor for years, being the only Black actor on screen. So there is just so much to appreciate in that film that they weren't doing because they didn't know how.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Right. You're going to bash something without fully understanding the context of this and what brought this here. I get it. Yep. I completely get it. It'd be different if they were having a constructive conversation, like, well, you know what, I wish, you know, this scene would have been done different or something, offering something constructive, but just kind of bash on it and not fully understand it really. It's telling. It screams a lot of volumes. So
until this day, it's not one of my favorite Halloween installments, but till this day, like, if I see any Halloween Resurrection merch, I buy it. I support it because I do believe it was a cultural impact. Like, Tyra Banks in a movie is a cultural impact. Busta Rhymes karate chopping Michael Myers, that's cultural impact. Like, right. So
I completely and totally agree with you. 100%. 100%. All right, going on to number 5, Sade, I want to make sure my audience keeps up with you, your work, everything. Where are you on social media?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram and failing miserably at TikTok because I'm just not that committed. I'm an old millennial who can't be bothered, but I am Sade Sellers on Twitter, and then Sade Sellers on Instagram, and then Sade Sellers on TikTok. So it's pretty easy to find me.
Excellent. And of course, I highly encourage my audience, make sure you go ahead and follow Sade Sellers on Instagram and on Twitter. As you just said, she's failing at TikTok, but still go follow her anyways if you guys are on TikTok, just for the heck of it.
You're not going to get continual content. You're going to get like a sporadic video once every 5 months. So enjoy.
At least you're honest about it.
Yeah. I'm not an influencer at all. I can't.
That's okay. Neither am I. All right. Going on to the number 6 question. What future projects are you involved with that you can give a little dish about to the J Lounge audience?
Yeah, I am coming back to write the 7th season of a podcast series called True Love. It's on Wondery Media's app. I'll be starting that job in June-ish. And then I'm working on the Business Wars season this year, starting next week, also for Wonder Media. And then there is a project I think I'm going to help my friend line produce her miniseries that she's shooting later in the fall. And I can't say what it is and where it's at, but I have a project that's at a studio, and if they like it, great. If not, I fully intend on just making it myself independently. So I'm kind of just waiting in the wings. It's a horror film, to see what happens with that, because I would love to make it myself, but I would also love, studio funds. But either way, it's going to get made. Something's going to happen with it this year. So we'll see.
Oh, I'm excited. Well, make sure you keep keep people here at the J Lounge audience updated, because of course we want to know more about your work. So, and more about that as well. So
yeah.
Keep us updated. All right. So going on to number 7 question. What goals do you hope to accomplish in your screenwriting and filmmaking career?
I mean, since I started, my main goal has always been to write and direct my own feature. I very close. I wrote a horror film thriller called Deadly Dispatch for the TV1 network. I didn't direct it, but I wrote it. I have a short right now that's going through festivals called Decisions that I directed, didn't write it, but directed. So I've kind of been doing the job not together. So that's why I'm hoping this horror film that's at the studio, whether they go for it or myself, I'll be able to direct it, because I wrote it myself. But that's always been the goal for me, to be the filmmaker that writes and directs their own material. I'm very inspired by people like Ari Aster, who has control of their career and just what they want to say and what they want to do, and has, a team like A24 that continues to back them up. Same thing with Quentin Tarantino. He's always been in control of his careers, and he makes whatever he wants to make. And I want the same courtesy as the white men to make whatever I want to make. I think that's all filmmakers' dreams. There's nothing wrong with getting assigned. Like I've been assigned to write someone else's stuff or direct someone else's stuff. I love that too. That's just fine. But at the end of the day, my goal has always been, I want to write and direct, like M. Night. We were just talking about M. Night. And if it comes out once every 7 years, that's fine. But I would love to do that.
No, I get it. To have that same creative freedom. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know if there's any Black woman, I want to say, who's doing that right now. Yeah. Who's writing and directing their own stuff. Maybe Ava, but I don't know if Ava wrote the script for, I know she did. She wrote the script for Selma. She didn't get the writing credit. It was a whole thing that I think, you know what? I think she co-wrote it. Anyway,
yeah, but
whoever that woman is.
Yeah, no, I get what yeah. All right, okay, Sade, we only got 10 more minutes left, and before the interview is over, so let's quickly get to these last 3 questions. Name 3 actors you love to work with and why.
Oh, 3 actors. Okay. Okay, I got this. Right off the bat, it's definitely Denzel Washington, although he scares me. Denzel Washington. Angela Bassett would be freaking amazing. I would cry. And Angelina Jolie.
I like your choices. For one, Angela Bassett, I worship the ground she walks on.
Me too.
Just gonna say.
Water. Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah. Just saying. And Denzel Washington, I don't care. He could be sitting in the room just doing nothing. I'll pay money to go see it. I will pay money to go see it.
He was wonderful in Macbeth, but his presence intimidates me that I'd be afraid to mess up, but I would want to work with him. Yeah, he would make it better.
Yeah, there's just something magnetic, captivating, and just powerful about his presence. I get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I get it. All right, going on to the number 9 question. What's been some of the most rewarding moments in your career?
The most rewarding, I was being on the set of Deadly Dispatch, the movie I wrote for TV1. They flew me out to do EPK, which is like press. And I was sitting in the kitchen and I was watching the actors say the lines that I wrote. And then I was also like sitting with the background artists. During lunch, I was sitting with them because I started my career doing background work. So that was like a full circle of holy shit. Oh crap, I can't curse.
No, you're fine.
sorry, that was the most rewarding moment, because it was kind of like, oh, all of the things I went through, I did it, and I'm so happy. I was miserable doing background work, and now people are reading my work, so that was really great.
And it's so cool that they flew you out. I mean, I just wish to be flown out somewhere
Yeah.
just for the heck of it. Like, first class, nothing too fancy. First class, probably a private suite at a hotel, nothing too fancy. Nothing too fancy.
Yeah. It was for a day. It's fine. I made it work.
Still.
Yeah. So.
All right. Going on to the number 10 question and the last question for you, Sade. What is some of your passions outside of filmmaking and screenwriting?
That's such a funny question too, because I was just telling my friends I don't have a hobby that doesn't involve like writing, reading, watching movies. So I'm actually on the journey at 32 years old to find what my passion is outside of that. So I'm trying to take like fencing classes, but I will say a passion I have of mine is my nonprofit, the Social Ripple Effect. We give unused clothing from different companies here in LA that have like excess clothing. We give them back to the communities, but we also promote transparent elections and voter registration. So we like to talk to the community about elections, how to vote, not what to vote for, we're nonpartisan, but how to decipher what their propositions say, especially in California. They're so confusing. We update them on when the elections are happening, how to do mail-in voting. We teach them how to do their mail-in ballot. So that's actually a huge passion of mine, is just voter empowerment, but also transparency in our elections. That's what I would love to continue my work in eventually.
That is so important, honestly. Very, very important. And I am happy that you do work like that. Definitely send me some information on that, because that's something I would definitely like to support, because it's so important, because our democracy and voting is continuously under attack, and there's so many misinformation.
Yes,
and it's
so
just
much.
It's just terrible, and it's really deterring people from voting because of that. Because of so
and
much misinformation.
The blame that they put on voters for not voting, for not being educated, when they clearly are giving us the misinformation to make us vote out of our interest, is appalling to happen in the United States of America. And the amount of money that's in politics is disgusting. So I'm a huge advocate for, we need more transparency when it comes to financial transparency, but also just, why are you making these propositions, these laws so confusing for people normally to read? Even me, I'm educated and I can't read half this stuff. I have to really deep dive. So yeah, I can talk about that for hours, but I'll send you the site, socialrippleeffect.org.
Oh my gosh, no, I get it. I can talk about that for hours too. That's something I'm also passionate about. I totally understand. That's why I think what you do is great work. And like I said, any information, definitely send it over, because I know myself, I know my audience, they're going to want to have some information on that, so they can kind of join in with you. For sure.
Absolutely. I will. We're having our 3rd annual Juneteenth event on June 18th this year, where we're giving out, where we're hosting a bunch of Black businesses to come and sell their products for free. They don't have to pay a booth fee. They don't have to pay any fees. They have their tables and tents provided. They just come and sell their products. And it's a way for people to give back to Black businesses. So that's what we're doing here.
That's what we need. # Black owned businesses, people. Support, please. Because we need more of it. We need more of it.
Yeah, me too.
Sade, you have been an absolute pleasure to talk to. I really love your direction. I love your passion as a screenwriter and filmmaker. And of course, I love your passion in protecting and wanting to advocate for voter transparency and all of that. I think that is awesome. It's needed. I wish more filmmakers and screenwriters, which they are, will tackle on that as well, because like I said, more than ever, our voting rights and our democracy is getting under attack. So it's important to get the correct, accurate information. Now, as you just said, we're not telling people who to vote for. We are trying to get that transparency so everyone can make the best decision on who to vote for.
Exactly.
That is all. I think that's amazing that you're doing that, and I really appreciate you sharing your story and just really showing my audience who you are. I just love it. Thank you.
Thank you. I had so much fun. These were great questions that I never get to answer, so I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. That is who we are about here at the J Lounge. So I'm super glad you had a good time, because that's exactly what we're here about as well. I do want to encourage my audience, make sure you follow Sade Sellers Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you guys support her work as well. We want to see more of her film work on the big screen, little screen, any screen that we can get it on. We definitely want to hear more of her stuff. So make sure you guys go give her support and do so. But I do want to thank my amazing guest, Sade, one more time for being awesome. I do want to thank everybody for listening in. Of course, you guys know I've been your hostess with the mostest, Miss J, aka Miss Simone Jackson, bringing you guys another great episode of the J Lounge. I will be bringing you guys more, of course, you guys know, so stay tuned for that. And if you guys happen to miss this interview, make sure you guys follow me on my YouTube, the J Lounge. Of course, I'm on Twitter as well, Instagram. So make sure you guys follow and give your support. All right. I want to thank my guests. I want to thank everyone for listening in. Until then, everyone have a beautiful day. We'll be back soon. Bye.